Yuta is a lonely yet caring boy who gives up on women after his mother cheats on his father. However, when he suddenly gets a hot stepsister, he starts developing feelings for her and hopes he finds her stuck in a washing machine.
You can start, Itsuki. This is only practice after all.
It all starts with Saki and Yuta going on about their lives while thinking about the abnormality of having a step-sibling and how it's the complete opposite of those family therapy videos. It's true that even normal siblings start as strongers, but in the case of step-siblings, they remain strongers till the very end. That night, Seki meets her mother Akiko outside a restaurant while Yuta sneaks into his workplace, but is caught by his coworker Shiori. Unbeknownst to him, Yuta's father Teichi meets Saki's mother at the restaurant that night. The next day, he tells Yuta that he's going to remarry, explaining to him that he met a woman who works at the bar last night. He explains she took care of him when he was drunk, and when Yuta believes it's a scam, he tells him to see it for himself because they're meeting her tonight. Yuta thinks Teichi is setting himself up for another heartbreak, but doesn't mind as long as his dad is happy. He says he'll do his usual thing, but Teichi tells him that won't cut it because he's gonna get a new stepsister. On their way to meet them, he sees a picture of his new stepsister, but once they come face to face, Yuta gets shocked after realizing she's the same age as him. She then introduces herself as Saki, and Akiko apologizes for the confusion, explaining that Saki won't let her take pictures of her now that she's older. As the new siblings catch up, Saki says she is relieved Yuta looks like an NPC because she thought he'd be scary looking. Yuta comments that evil people are usually kind looking, but Saki says she heard he works and always gets good grades too. Yuta once again comments that serial criminals are also very intelligent, which makes Saki laugh. Later, the two head down the stairs where Saki says she wants to share something important with him. She says Yuta came off as a chill guy at the first meeting, so she believes he will be able to truly understand what she's about to say. She then sternly says that she doesn't expect anything from him, so he shouldn't expect her to get stuck in a washing machine either. After a brief silence, Yuta says he is relieved and suggests they keep this stance going forward. The next morning, Teichi suddenly panics when he realizes he completely forgot to clean the bedroom, and today is the day Akiko is coming over. Just as the panic sets in, the doorbell rings and Akiko shows up with a huge pile of gifts as a thank you for their kind hospitality. Yuta quickly welcomes both Akiko and Saki inside, and they're both genuinely surprised at how clean and tidy the house looks. Yuta casually explains that it's kind of a family tradition to keep the place spotless. Right on cue, Teichi makes his appearance in the goofiest way possible, drawing big laughs from both Akiko and Saki. After everyone settles down, Yuta takes Saki to her room, and she is amazed at how cozy and clean everything is compared to her old place. She tells Yuta that her previous home only had one bedroom, and since Akiko worked night shifts, they shared it by using it at different times of the day. Saki had the whole place to herself during the day, which made it feel like her own little world. Feeling a bit bad, Yuta apologizes for her now having to share space with them, but Saki stops him and says he doesn't have to be so formal anymore because they're the same age. Yuta asks if she's really okay with that, and Saki says she finds casual talk relaxing and more natural. Although it might be hard for Yuta to speak informally with her right away, he appreciates her honesty and, ironically, chooses to address her a bit more formally out of respect. Saki then opens up and says that when she told her old friends about her new life, they made fun of her, so she cut all of them off except one. Trying to lighten the mood, Yuta offers to let her unpack while their parents settle the rest of the house. But in the middle of this, Yuta accidentally trips and falls right onto a woman's bra, making everyone laugh and breaking the tension completely. Later on, Yuta finds out that Saki is attending the same school as him, and after hearing how her friends treated her, he promises not to approach her there. Just as they begin to talk more about it, Yuta gets a phone call and Saki urges him to go ahead and answer it. That night, Shiori smells a woman's perfume on Yuta and gets excited thinking he finally got a shawty on his ding-dong. She learns about his stepsister and asks if she's cute, and Yuta comments that she is quite beautiful. Shiori starts teasing him thinking they'll be breaking beds, only to realize her mind is in the gutter because she's going to an all-girls college. Yuta then admits he's stressed because he does not know how to act around Saki, and Shiori suggests he acts naturally. Later that night, Yuta walks home and casually stops for a while to watch a train go by. He then comes home to find Saki quietly sitting alone in the lounge. When he tells her he's home, Saki gets a bit shocked and says she and her mom rarely saw each other due to opposite schedules, so he doesn't know how to respond. Seeing the concern on Yuda's face, she tells him to relax because she and her mother stayed close and even managed to go shopping together once in a while. After their brief talk, Yuda heads to the shower, and the post-nut clarity has him reflecting on how much his life has changed in just a short time. Meanwhile, Saki is still in the lounge when she hears Yuda preparing a bath for her. When Yuda finishes bathing, he gently knocks on her door to let her know the bath is free. She thanks him, and after they exchange soft goodnights, Yuda leaves the light on for her before heading to bed. Later, she takes a bath and shuts off all the lights before retreating to her room. The next day, Yuda wakes up to his alarm, and after dressing up, he heads to the lounge only to find Saki doing the dishes. She says she slept well thanks to a good shower and tells him he doesn't have to make her a bath every night. She then ends the conversation saying she has to leave for school. Later at school, Yuda is up on the rooftop quietly watching Saki from above. She's sitting alone, looking like a total loner, and it makes him feel a bit uneasy. Just then, one of his classmates, Maru, shows up and catches him staring. Maru jokingly asks if Yuda wants to clap her, but Yuda just says he's not good enough for a girl like her. But then Maru surprises him by saying the opposite because he's heard rumors that Saki is a call girl. He points out her blonde hair, the piercings in her ears, and the cold look on her face as signs that she's trouble. Yuda asks why Maru believes in those rumors, and Maru explains that a guy from the baseball club once asked her out, and she rejected him by saying she's just as bad as everyone says. Yuda figures she was just trying to scare the guy off, but Maru says he's heard the same thing from other guys too. Before Maru can ask him about his new stepsister, the bell rings and they both head back to class. During tennis class, Yuda finds himself zoning out while watching a girl named Maya, and out of pure boredom, he ends up walking over to talk to Saki, who seems surprised that he's even speaking to her. She asks why he's even bothering, and Yuda admits that he got a little worried after seeing her skip class, which catches her off guard. Curious, he asks why she even picked tennis in the first place, and Saki explains that she had two reasons, one being that Maya pressured her into it, and the other she doesn't really want to talk about right away. She flips the question back at him, and Yuda says he chose tennis because it doesn't involve any team matches, and that he prefers not relying on other people or being relied on, which turns out to be Saki's other reason. When she says she struggles to fit in, Yuda casually remarks that someone as stylish as her should naturally be the center of attention. But Saki says she likes being left alone because it gives her space to do what she enjoys, like listening to music in peace. Later, when Yuda returns home, Akiko is just about to leave for her night shift and lets him know she's made dinner in advance. Curious, Yuda asks if working with customers is tiring, but she reveals she's a bartender, so it's not as exhausting as it sounds. Before stepping out, she gently asks Yuda to look after Saki while she's gone. Later that evening, while Yuda is busy studying alone in his room, he hears the front door open and casually calls out a welcome, knowing it must be Saki returning home. A moment later, Saki knocks on his door, steps inside, and announces that she's back. Noticing that he's sitting in the dark, she turns on the lights and praises him for being able to handle both school and part-time work without falling apart, something she finds impressive. She then asks if he knows any part-time jobs that pay a lot of money but don't take up too much time because she's in need of extra cash but doesn't have many hours to spare. When Yuda tells her it's not easy to find jobs like that, she says she read somewhere that if you want to make good money fast, you have to sell yourself, which instantly makes Yuda panic inside. Not wanting to be too direct or rude, he awkwardly tries to hint that she should take better care of her body. But Saki calmly responds that she loves her body and that's why she dresses the way she does. Yuda then asks if she'd be able to say that to her mother with a straight face, and Saki replies with a smile that her mother would actually be proud of her for growing up. That's when Yuda finally realizes that they're not even talking about the same thing. While he thought she was charging $20 for giving sloppy toppies to strongers, she was only talking about a regular job and just happened to say it in a weird way. Later, Yuda apologizes to her for misunderstanding everything, but Saki doesn't take it personally because she knows he's probably been hearing all the stupid rumors people are spreading about her. She explains that the way she dresses is like armor, something she learned from watching her mom, who always looks her best before going to work. She mentions how people say all kinds of mean stuff about her mom, especially because she's pretty and used to be popular in high school, but none of it is true. Saki says society always finds a way to tear women down. If you're smart and not cute, they call you cold, and if you're pretty but not smart, they say you're lazy or a gold digger. That's why she puts on this armor of makeup and clothes, hoping to stand out before she can actually prove herself in school and work. She admits she wants to prove them wrong, even though she's not really sure who they are. Seiki says Yuta's a bit like her too, since he avoids relying on others or letting others depend on him. That's why she's trying to work so she can live independently and on her own terms. When Yuta offers to help her find a job, Seiki says she can't accept help without paying him back. So to make it even, Yuta asks her to make him miso soup every day, telling her that it's the first time in years he's had it and that it tasted really good. He knows Akiko can't make it every night because of her job, so Saki smiles and agrees to the deal. The next day, Yuta asks Saki why she's making breakfast, and when she says they made a deal last night, he reminds her that it was only for dinner. However, Saki says her policy is to give more and take less, so she thought she might as well make breakfast too. Later, she asks Yuta if he likes the breakfast, and the guy reveals he actually prefers his eggs with soy sauce. Saki is surprised because she always used salt and pepper like anyone who has their brain intact, and he says it's his fault for not telling her first. At work, Yuta tells Shiori that he wants to learn basic life skills because he plans to live alone after graduation, especially now that things feel a bit cramped with Seki moving in. Shiori says having a sister your age is actually a big advantage, and even advises him not to push himself too hard, reminding him that it's okay to lean on others sometimes. She adds that having money is a blessing, but if you don't, just find someone rich to help out. When Yuta looks surprised, she grins and says she has lots of sugar daddies before quickly claiming she's only joking. At night, Yuta shares Shiori's advice with Saki, and she's surprised a loner like him has a female friend.
Emotional, damn it!
After shipping them, Saki admits Shiori gave him good advice, but she still wants to be independent. She even admits he and his father are amazing people, but that makes it harder, and she wishes they were terrible people instead. That night, Seki leaves something for Yuta outside the bathroom door. The next day, he's on his way to school when he finds Saki at the zebra crossing. As he waits behind her, Saki casually starts walking and is about to get hit by a speeding truck. Later in tennis class, he sees Saki and Maya playing together and recalls scolding her after saving her life. After school, it starts to rain and Yuta decides to lend her his umbrella. He then returns home all drenched and hits the shower. After he exits, he finds Saki and Maya sitting in the lounge. The next day, Yuta is in bed and recalls last night's events when he met Maya, who made him sit with them so she could know him better. Later, Saki apologized because Maya came uninvited and Seki couldn't inform him because she didn't have his phone number. She had to tell Maya that they were siblings now because she was getting suspicious, especially since he gave her his umbrella last night. Yuta apologized for getting careless, but Saki ignored it and asked for his number. At present, Yuta hears Akiko tell Saki that she has trouble sleeping, and since Tachi had to leave late today, she is hoping they can have breakfast together. Later, they all sit down to eat together, and Akiko serves a rolled omelet with broth, something Yuta enjoys. Seeing this, Akiko tells Saki that she should try making it for him next time, though Saki admits she can't get it this fluffy yet. But when Yuta says he's fine with just plain fried eggs, Saki changes her mind and says she might give it a try if she feels like it. After dinner, Yuta helps with the dishes and asks about doing laundry. Akiko says she usually handles it herself since women's clothes are delicate and he might damage them, then jokes about washing his underwear too, making him nervous. That day, Saki offers to walk to school with Yuta, and after apologizing for assuming he doesn't know how to do laundry, she starts to think he is a little fruity from the way he reacted earlier. As she keeps yapping, Yuta tells her to calm down and explains he is as straight as the pole your mum dances on. But Saki argues he has very sharp eyebrows, which means he must go to a salon. In reality, Yuta pays $1 for that cry for help type haircut. She apologizes again for judging Yuta the wrong way, but he tells her to take it easy, saying that sometimes people act without thinking, just out of habit. Saki says that kind of thinking turns into prejudice, which later becomes discrimination, but Yuta replies that it can be changed if you take the time to look at things properly. He tells her she seems like the kind of person who can admit her mistakes and grow from them, which makes her stop and go quiet. When he asks what's wrong, she walks past him and says he understands her too well, and those words stick with Yuta the entire day. Returning home, he peeks into Saki's room because the door is open and finds her unmentionables hanging out. She suddenly appears behind him and Yuta is so embarrassed that he rushes to his workplace without staying. There he gets a text from Saki who asks if he was being a peeping Tom, and when she confronts her face to face, he admits he ran off because he didn't want to give her the impression that he's an underwear thief. Saki believes that's unfair and brings him cocoa, explaining that his eyes being drawn is also a reflex, much like the one she had earlier. As Yuta takes a sigh of relief, Saki starts teasing him by asking if he really thought about stealing her underwear, and Yuta admits he felt a slight urge to take it. However, just cause the monkey's screaming doesn't mean you gotta throw the banana. Saki suddenly gets all serious and says she's already had dinner before retreating to her room, leaving Yuta a little confused. The next day during sports class, Maya walks up to Yuta and asks if something happened to Saki because she's been quiet and distant the whole day. Later, Yuta sends Saki a message asking if something happened, but she replies hours later with a cold and short no. After an awkward dinner, Saki heads to the bath, after which she does her hair and slowly walks towards Yuta's room while he's reading a book inside. As she opens the door, Yuta drops the book on his face and looks in the other direction, allowing her to turn off the lights. She then drops her clothes at his door and walks towards him. As she slowly creeps up on his bed, she asks if he would like to explore her chamber of secrets, which takes her to a flashback to her own diary. On the day Seki moved in with Yuta, she felt relieved because she could tell Yuta was kind and thoughtful right away when he prepared a bath for her without even being asked. The next day at school, when Yuta spoke to her for the first time, she was a little hurt since it felt like he believed the bad rumors. But that feeling didn't last long because she saw how upset he was once he realized the rumors were false. That was the first time someone understood her feelings so effortlessly. Soon after, she found out that Yuta likes soy sauce on his eggs and started cooking for him while he tried to help her find a job, even though she already knew it wouldn't be that easy. The day Yuta saved her from an accident, she felt really embarrassed about it. But things got better when Maya visited and they all had fun together. Later, she added Yuta on her phone and laughed when she saw he had a boring landscape as his profile photo. From then on, she realized that Yuta always says things she can relate to, and riding his monster truck just feels right. Yuta, however, stops her advances and explains she's acting like the kind of girl he wouldn't tap if he was paid to do it. He asks why she's using her body to get what she wants, and what's the point if she can't prove others wrong without using her flat factory as a weapon. Seki says it felt right because he understands her so well, but Yuta asserts that it is not about him. After she apologizes, they stay up all night talking about her daddy issues, and Seki reveals how his dad used to be a good guy until his company failed. When her mother worked overtime to support him, he got offended and labeled her as an OnlyFans thought. Yuta shares his own sob story, explaining how his mom cheated on his dad, and ever since that day, they both became paranoid about women. Seki realizes they have a lot in common, even the broken parts, but Yuta believes they will get along quite well as siblings despite their past traumas. He then suggests Saki calls her big brother, but she starts laughing and leaves the room after thanking him. That night, their parents go out to eat after Yuta forces them to, and Seki starts to realize just how thoughtful he truly is. She knows that if she starts calling him big brother, she'll end up relying on him too much, so for now, she sticks to calling him by his name, though even that makes her heart race. Without meaning to, she's fallen for him, and for someone chasing independence, those feelings are painfully frustrating. A few days later, while walking home from school, Yuta finds himself thinking deeply about his relationship with Saki. It's been a month since she and her mother, Akiko, moved in, and although they started off as strangers, things have changed between them. Their bond isn't something simple anymore. It's not family, not exactly friendship, but something quietly in between. When he arrives home, Saki is already waiting in the hallway. She then quickly walks up to him, and with her face closer to his than usual, she asks him for help with modern literature, a subject she's been struggling with. Later, while folding laundry together, Yuta is shocked to hear that she scored only a 38, which is low even for an idiot like her. She admits she struggles to read between the lines, especially when it comes to people. Yuta finds this strong because, to him, Saki always seems to understand what he is feeling. If she fails modern lit, she'll have to take summer classes, which will ruin her plan of taking a part-time job during summer vacations. Yuta tries helping her with literature, but when he reads her answers, he realizes her brain is run by a hamster on a wheel. He tells her this without sugarcoating it. He brings up a part of the book where the character Sanshiro falls for a woman named Minako, and he explains that even though Sanshiro never says anything directly, the jealousy he feels proves he's in love. Saki can't understand why someone wouldn't just say how they feel, so Yuta asks her if she's ever had a moment where she couldn't say what she truly felt. Saki says she has no experience with love at all, but when she learns Yuta is also a certified virgin like you guys, she realizes maybe love experience isn't needed to understand literature. Yuta tells her to treat it like a puzzle instead and start by memorizing the time period and how people used to think back then. With fewer question types to remember, he believes she'll get the hang of it quickly. Later, she starts answering practice questions, and this time her answers are much better. Yuta praises her progress, but when she calls him a great teacher, he downplays it, saying he's just average. The next morning, Saki is studying hard while Yuta wakes up and tries to grab a slice of toast for breakfast. Saki insists on making him something, but he tells her to keep studying because he wants her to pass the test. At school, during gym class, Maya spots Yuta in the locker room and sneaks up on him. She sniffs him dramatically and calls him Oni-chan, but Yuta quickly tries to shut that down, not wanting anyone to know about his relationship with Saki. Maya is in an unusually good mood and says she just finished her exams and can finally relax. She brags about scoring 808 points in total and flexes her high school average, which she's kept above 90%. Yuta's shocked and asks her to help Saki with literature since he's already done all he can. Maya realizes that Yuta really cares about Saki and suggests playing light music while studying. As they leave, she praises him for being a good brother and jokes about wanting 100 more like him. Meanwhile, on the weekend, work becomes extra stressful for Yuta because of the spike in annoying customers. Shiori tells him to be polite, even though she's always complaining about the same people when they're alone. Their boss walks by, and Shiori suddenly puts on a fake smile, which makes Yuta realize she's always pretending in front of others. Later, when it rains, Yuta is ready to go home, but he sees Shiori slumped over the counter, complaining about the weak AC and how lifting heavy books is ruining her back. She teases Yuta, asking if he'd take care of her if she got sick, and when he ignores her, she starts acting like a tired housewife whose husband prefers sleeping on the sofa. Eventually, she convinces Yuta to stay, so he tells her about Saki's struggles and how he's been testing different music genres to help her study. Shiori, who always has her earbuds in at work, shares her playlist with him. On his way home, he listens to it and decides to share it with Saki too. That night, he hands her the playlist and tells her it's from Shiori. Saki starts praising how beautiful Shiori is and how she has good taste in music. Yuta adds that she also has a goofy side, which makes Saki smile. After dinner, he tells her that since he's been getting a lot from her, sharing this playlist is his way of returning the favor. When Saki tries to do the dishes, Yuta tells her to leave it and focus on her studies instead. They then wish each other good night before she heads to her room. On the weekend, Yuta wakes up later than usual and finds his parents already having breakfast in the kitchen, and when he asks about Saki, Akiko tells him she's still asleep because she stayed up all night studying hard for her test. This also makes her a bit worried since Saki tends to sleep with her belly exposed, and with the weather being so hot lately, she's afraid the girl might catch a cold. Later that day at work, Shiori finds out they've completely run out of a popular book, and she seems a little disappointed that they don't even have enough copies to display on the shelves, especially because she personally likes the book. Yuta mentions that there's actually a movie version of it too, which makes Shiori a bit curious, so he tells her what it's about. The story follows a boy who meets a stronger girl in the park carrying an old violin, and when a group of mysterious men starts chasing her, the boy steps in to help, and together they go on a strong adventure through time and space to protect the violin and uncover the secrets behind it. Yuta suggests they try displaying the remaining copies face out to grab attention, and while they're doing that, Shiori casually mentions that the movie is getting pulled from theaters after tomorrow, which is unfortunate since Yuta can't go on that day. So she asks if he's free after work tonight, and suggests they go see the last late-night show together, and when Yuta agrees, she gets a little too happy and tells him he should probably let someone at home know. Yuta thinks of texting his parents, but Shiori says he should message Saki instead since she's the one who'd actually give two Fs about him. Later that evening at the theater, Shiori asks for a Diet Coke and caramel popcorn, and Yuta laughs, calling her choice the most basic combo ever, but still buys her the biggest size they got. The movie begins with a boy running away with a bag of groceries, and he meets a girl who asks him to carry her violin, saying it must be protected from evil men, even if it costs her life. As they travel together, the boy helps her escape danger, but things take a turn when she suddenly falls ill. Although the boy can't change her fate, he encourages her to keep moving forward because she still has time to reach the special place she always wanted to see. Motivated by his support, the girl gets back on her feet, and they continue their journey together until the end. After the movie ends, Yuta walks Shiori home, and to thank him for coming, she buys him a drink from the vending machine. While they're standing there, she suddenly looks serious and says she has something important to tell him. Out of nowhere, she blurts out that she only has 6 months left to live, clearly mimicking the drama from the movie. When Yuta plays along like he's the boy from the film, she lets herself get lost in the moment for a bit until the vending machine noises snap her out of it, causing her to cower in embarrassment. The two then continue walking toward Shiori's home, and Yuta is clueless about what Shiori is feeling. As they say goodbye, Yuta thanks her again for the playlist she gave him, and she smiles while telling him to send her greetings to Saki. That night, Shiori imagines herself as the girl with the violin and pictures Yuta by her side as the boy who learns how to play guitar just for her, and in that little fantasy, they get to live a quiet, happy life together. The next day, Saki wakes up and asks Yuta if he put a blanket on her while she was sleeping. Yuta says it was him and he didn't want her to get sick before the retest. She then asks about the movie he went to see the night before, and Yuta tells her it was called A Rift in the Blue Night. When Saki asks if Yuta is secretly pumping Shiori, he nearly chokes on his food, surprised by the question. He quickly explains that they're just co-workers who enjoy talking about books. Saki then says she should read more too, and Yuta replies that it would give him another person to share his thoughts with. Later, at work, Yuta meets Shiori and they start restocking the shelves. Suddenly, a customer walks in, and Shiori excitedly recognizes that it's Saki. As Yuta steps in, Saki asks him to help her find a study guide and the novel of the movie Yuta saw yesterday. After Yuta helps Saki find the books she needs, she compliments him on his apron. She then heads to the counter where she pays for the books and makes small talk with Shiori before heading home. As they take a break from work, Shiori implies that Saki might be in love with Yuta, but he brushes it off saying she's just his sister. The next morning, Yuta is lost in thought when Maru notices and brings up his recent interactions with Maya. Yuta quickly insists that they're not close and that he only spoke with her to ask about studying. Maru, however, teases him, joking that he has a crush on her, and offers his relationship advice. On his way out, he runs into Maya again, and when Saki arrives, Maya suggests they walk home together. As they stroll, Saki explains that Maya is helping her study, which is why she's with them. Once they reach home, Maya walks in like she owns the place, and Saki apologizes in advance for any chaos she might cause. Yuta, unfazed, tells her not to worry and wishes her the best of luck with her studies. Later that day, Saki offers to make Yuta dinner, but he tells her to focus on studying instead. Since he has the day off, he plans to cook something for himself, but the truth is, he can't cook at all. Seeing his struggle, Maya steps in and offers to help. They follow a recipe from Yuta's phone, and with Maya's guidance, they prepare a meal while Saki remains focused on her books. After they finish, Maya jokes about Yuta hiding a secret romance with his stepsister. Yuta brushes it off, but Maya remains suspicious, especially when she notices that Saki's been using more perfume lately. When Maya catches Saki watching them, she brings it up, but the conversation ends when dinner is served. The meal turns out surprisingly good, and as they eat, Yuta asks Saki how her studying is going. She tells him she's improving, but Maya suggests that Saki's study method could use some work. This makes Yuta feel uneasy, but Saki reassures him that his techniques are helping her, and she's confident she'll do well on her test the next day. The following morning, Maru notices that Yuta seems distracted in class, but Yuta brushes it off. At work, his exhaustion causes him to make several mistakes, which worries Shiori. Yuta doesn't have the energy to explain himself, so he heads home early. When he arrives, he finds the door to Saki's room open. Suddenly, it starts pouring rain and Yuta rushes outside to grab the wet clothes hanging on the balcony. He puts them in the dryer and watches the news, which reports that a storm has hit the city, causing delays at most train stations. Feeling anxious, Yuta texts Saki, but she doesn't respond. Worried, Yuta grabs an umbrella and goes out to look for her. He runs into Saki on the lift, who asks where he's headed. Yuta admits that he was worried about her, thinking something went wrong with her test, and she might be crying somewhere. Saki apologizes for making him worry, and then reveals that her test went well. She scored 94 out of 100, just shy of his 96, which is what Yuta got. She explains she went shopping for groceries so she could make him dinner to thank him for helping her pass. Yuta downplays it, but Saki insists that his help made a big difference. Not only did he help her study, but he also introduced her to music and even made her dinner the night before. She says she believes in giving more than she takes, so tonight, she's going to make him an amazing meal. As they walk home, Yuta asks why she didn't reply to his text. Saki sheepishly admits her phone died while listening to the music he sent her. The next day, Maru notices that Yuta seems much happier and guesses that whatever was bothering him has been sorted out. At work, Yuta notices a blonde girl walking into the staff room and asks his boss who she is. His boss casually tells him that her name is Saki, and she's there for a job interview. In her diary, Saki talked about how she struggled to understand English literature, and the way people express themselves made no sense to her poo-poo brain. It made her feel like the odd one out, but Yuta was really good at explaining things, so she was hopeful about her exam. After he gave her that Justin Bieber music playlist, she realized he went out of his way to get it for her and decided to thank him. At night, she explained how her head filled up with annoying thoughts every time she tried to sleep, so she decided to write about them in her diary. When Saki found out from her parents that Yuta had gone to see a movie with Shiori, it left a weird feeling in her chest, not because he did something wrong, but because he never mentioned it to her. She knew she always acted like she didn't give two F's about his life, so maybe that's why he kept it to himself. Still, something about it made her restless, even though she couldn't quite explain why, except that Kate was the only word close enough to describe it. She felt guilty for feeling this way, so she started studying in the living room so she could welcome Yuta with a sloppy toppy when he returned, but in the end, she couldn't stay awake. The next day, she found herself covered in a blanket, and after realizing that Yuta was the one who put it on her, she eased up a little. Later that day, she deliberately visited Yuta's workplace so she could see Shiori in person, the person Yuta is so close with. Saki quickly realized that Shiori not only got them curves, but she is also quite charismatic, which is the ideal type for Yuta. While shipping the two in her mind, she saw the poster for part-time hires in the bookstore, and on her way back, she contemplated working there. She wondered if Yuta would be creeped out with her working there. But since she had the test tomorrow, she decided to sleep early. The next day, she passed the test, but she knew already that it was going to be a breeze, and it was all thanks to Yuta and Maya. Now she was free to do whatever she wanted during the summer break, so she decided to interview for the position at the bookstore. She wanted to practice for the interview at home, but thought it'd be weird with Yuta around, so she went in with zero practice. On her way back, she wondered how Yuta would feel about it, but before she could dwell more on it, she ran into him on the lift. When he asked where she had been, Saki told her she went to get groceries, purposely hiding the fact that she got hired at his workplace. Saki figured that if she made Yuta a nice meal, maybe he'd forgive her, and if he didn't, then he'd just have to deal with it. She even made up that dumb excuse about her phone battery dying, and every time she lied, it planted another little doubt in her head that slowly started growing. It wasn't like she enjoyed being dishonest either, because the guilt kept her wide awake at night, to the point where she started fearing whatever strong emotion she had toward Yuta. There was one word that perfectly described how she felt, but she wasn't sure if she had the guts to write it down in her diary yet. The job interview went well, which should have been a relief, but now she was nervous about seeing Yuta again, worried it would turn everything awkward. Still, part of her was glad that she wouldn't have to lie anymore. Taking a breath, Saki came to the realization that her thoughts were basically brain dead, and maybe it was time to stop letting Yuta decide how she lived. No one else was ever going to read her diary anyway, so she wrote everything down as a warning to her future self, then shoved it deep into the drawer and promised never to open it again. The next morning, the family sits around the table for breakfast, and Teishi can't help but point out how Yuta and Saki still call each other by their last names like Strongers. Akiko playfully suggests that Saki should try calling Yuta Big Brother, but both of them immediately shoot that idea down because it just feels way too awkward for them. After eating, Yuta says he'll be off to work by noon, but Teishi reminds him not to push himself too hard, especially since summer break is here. He adds that even if Yuta isn't going on any trips, he should at least relax and spend time with friends. He jokes he doesn't have any friends as opposed to Saki, but she says she doesn't have plans with them. Later that day, Saki peeks into Yuta's room and corrects him by saying she doesn't actually have a group of friends, and it's just Maya. And even with her, it's not like they're close enough to hang out during break. The only reason Maya ever came over was because she wanted to see him in person. Saki mentions how Maya gives her space without trying to force a connection, and that makes Yuta realize that, just like him, Saki also prefers her peace and quiet. That afternoon, while Saki works with Yuta and Shiori at the store, she struggles to find a certain book. Shiori watches her fumble and casually nudges Yuta to go help out. Yuta walks over and quickly locates the book, which was hidden beneath another release. On the way home, Saki asks how he found it so fast, and Yuta explains that the book she was looking for is old, so it shouldn't have been placed among new releases. Saki is a little impressed, but Yuta insists that Shiori is actually sharper than him when it comes to these things. As they pass a boutique, Saki comments on how fall is probably here, but Yuta disagrees, saying the heat proves summer isn't over. She then points out mannequins wearing long-sleeved fall outfits and realizes Yuta dresses like a goblin because fashion isn't his strong suit. The next morning, Yuta sees Teishi sweating while trying to fix the broken AC, and when he asks about Saki, Akiko says she left early because she can't deal with hot weather. She remembers how Saki used to beg for ice cream every 5 minutes as a kid, and though those tantrums ended when she entered middle school, Akiko kind of misses those moments. Later, Yuta meets up with Maru at a cafe, and Maru casually brings up the pool plan with Maya and Saki, only to realize Yuta wasn't even invited. That night, after work, Yuta and Saki walk home together. He praises her for learning quickly on the job, and as they walk, he carefully brings up the pool party, asking if she is going too. Saki is stunned and assumes Maya told him, but Yuta points out he doesn't even have Maya's number. She then asks if he wants to come, but Yuta says those pool events are just places where miserable people pretend to be having fun. Saki admits she's not going either and reassures him that he doesn't have to force himself. Once they're home, she quietly heads to her room and finally realizes she's been feeling something she didn't want to admit: jealousy. While walking to work the next morning, Akiko hears a baby crying in the distance. The sound hits a nerve, pulling her back to Saki's early years of sticky summers, ice cream demands, and tantrums over nothing. She recalls how easy it used to be to distract Saki with food, especially when she promised her beef stew for dinner. Back at home, Teishi finally gets the AC working again, and Akiko's relieved Saki can stay in and study without melting into a puddle. That afternoon, Yuta asks Akiko if would Saki enjoy being surprised with a plan, but Akiko says Saki likes to be in control, and being left out of planning would probably just make her grumpy. Akiko pokes fun and asks if Yuta's planning on asking her out on a date, but he turns red and mutters that she's just his sister. He ends up admitting he's a little worried about her because she keeps grinding non-stop like she's racing some invisible clock. Akiko starts wondering if she's the reason Saki turned out this way because she was too busy to give Saki enough time when she was little. Regret sinks in, and she asks Yuta to help out and just remind her daughter once in a while that she's allowed to breathe. Yuta hesitates, afraid Saki might think he's meddling, but Akiko says if it goes south, she'll tell him Saki's favorite comfort thing. Later on, Yuta tries to bring up the pool again and knocks on Saki's door, but Saki's already made up her mind that she's not going. When he asks for Maya's number, hoping to steer the conversation, Saki says she can't give it to him without Maya's permission. At cram school, Yuta gets approached by a girl who hands him something he dropped. As he leaves, he bumps into Shiori, and the two head out together. When he asks about the person she was just talking to, Shiori explains it was her college professor, someone she always ends up clashing with. But she brushes it off, saying teasing Yuta gives her enough emotional fuel to get through anything. She leans in close, clearly enjoying the discomfort she causes him. Out of nowhere, Saki appears and sees the scene, making her think they're breaking beds behind her back. Work the next day feels normal on the surface, but there's a weird energy between Saki and Yuta, like they're both trying to act like nothing's changed. After their shift, she sends him a message saying she's going shopping and that he can head home without her. Walking alone, Yuta starts to think about how messy their relationship has gotten lately and wonders if this is what emotional distance feels like. Back home, he rummages around the fridge and finds leftover fried rice. As he's prepping it, Saki walks in and dryly instructs him to reheat it without the lid. As he makes coffee, Yuta casually revisits the pool topic, asking again if he can get Maya's number. This time, Saki hands it over with no complaints. That's when Yuta reveals the real reason he kept pushing was because he wanted Saki to go as well. Akiko had mentioned how much she used to love swimming, and Yuta figured maybe a little jealousy would nudge her out of her cave. But even though Saki likes being around Maya, she still doesn't want to go because she doesn't have time. Yuta pushes back, saying she's dragging herself into the ground, pretending she can handle it all, but he sees right through it. He knows she wants to prove herself, but he also knows that this path ends in burnout. Saki doesn't say anything, she just gives him the number and disappears into her room because she is too overwhelmed to argue. Alone, she curls up in her chair, quietly unraveling under the weight of her own expectations. She doesn't fall asleep until the sun's almost up and wakes up well past breakfast time. As she stumbles out of her room, Yuta casually asks if she got any rest. She admits she only managed to sleep around 6 in the morning. When she realizes she didn't make breakfast for anyone, she starts to panic and tries to rush into the kitchen. But Yuta tells her to stop and listen to him. He reminds her of the day she first moved in and how she wanted them to get along. If that's still true, then she needs to slow down. She tries to protest, insisting she's okay, but Yuta doesn't budge. For once, she lets him take over. He asks what she wants to eat, and she shyly says she likes grilled toast. He follows up with a warm milk offer, claiming it'll help her sleep better. While he gets everything ready, Saki just watches, her face blank with surprise, while Yuta casually munches. She eventually takes a bite of the toast and drinks the milk. Slowly, the tension in her shoulders melts away. Feeling more like herself, she softly suggests they could go to the pool together. Yuta looks relieved, but when she remembers they have work that day, Yuta says they can trade shifts with someone else. The smile that spreads across Saki's face is small, but it's real. On their walk to the bookstore, Saki apologizes for how cold she was the day before. She says she wants to be more honest going forward but demands the same in return. She bluntly asks if he's dating Shiori, but Yuta says no, which surprises her a little. She starts listing off Shiori's strengths before stopping herself, realizing she might be forcing him into liking her without meaning to. As they keep walking, Yuta realizes he's been dragging his bite the entire way, even though they haven't used it once. They've already gone too far to turn back, and he sighs in defeat, earning a burst of laughter from Saki. Like her. Later, on the way home, Yuta talks with some of his friends, but part of his mind drifts. For Saki crept in before he could stop it, and even knowing they were supposed to be siblings didn't help him shake it. Then, unexpectedly, Saki thanks him too. She tells him she's always liked pools, and today felt time. Even though Yuta is stunned, this one sentence pulls him back to reality while she's trying so hard to see him as family. After locking up his bicycle, he takes a breath and tries to reset himself. She wants to see him as just her brother, to play the role life gave her. The next morning, she finds out her parents took the day off to spend time together. Saki mentions that she and Yuta are also off work, so the whole family can be home for once. Seeing her mother genuinely happy, Saki decides to lock her diary and throws the key into the canal because she doesn't want her feelings to ruin the happy family they built. Yuta wakes up late, annoyed that he missed cram school, but Teishi says he let him sleep on purpose because he wanted him to take a real break. Later, Akiko thanks Yuta for taking Saki to the pool and tells him how grateful she is that her daughter has someone looking out for her, just as she shows him Saki's favorite thing on her phone, just in case Yuta ever finds it. She can't deny how much she wants to get clapped by him, but she can try to live as his sister, not as a girl who has fallen in love with him. The next day, Maya announces her idea to run a camp, and Saki takes out her phone to find a text from Akiko, as some of the students, including a guy named Shinjo, suggest going out for karaoke. Walking home alone, Saki starts thinking about her relationship with Yuta. She reflects on how steps have been between them lately. She realizes her thoughts toward Yuta are starting to shift. When she gets home, she finds Akiko getting ready for her shift Yuta at school, and Saki explains that not much has changed since they're in different classes. Akiko says work. Just then, Yuta arrives, and Akiko updates him on the situation. She understands that they'd kept their family situation private at school, so she suggests doing the meetings on different days. But Yuta, seeing how hard she works, says there's no need to make her go. Told Saki that Yuta still hadn't accepted her as a mother, which quietly broke her heart. That's why this parent-teacher meeting means more to her than either of them realizes. Later that evening, Saki comes back from work and finds that Yuta has already made dinner. They eat in silence for a while before finally discussing the parent-teacher meetings. Yuta says that while he was initially hesitant to let others know he's related to a psycho like her, he doesn't feel that way anymore. Saki agrees, mentioning that keeping things hidden any longer could cause more harm than good, especially to their parents. They both decide that Akiko should attend both of their meetings they do it together instead. As they clean up, they talk about small things including school, work, and memories from the past few weeks. Though neither of them says it out loud, this quiet, everyday moment makes them feel a bit more like a family. For the first time, they both feel the awkward barrier between them slowly starting to fade. The following morning, Teishi asks Yuta if he's truly okay with Akiko attending the PTM, and Yuta tells him that he and Saki came to the decision together. Teishi explains that Akiko just wants them to become a real family, and this one gesture might bring her closer to that dream. Meanwhile, Saki wakes up and apologizes for not making breakfast, but Teishi tells her to join them instead. She then shows Yuta a message from Akiko saying how happy she is about their decision. As Yuta leaves for cram school, he starts wondering if it's really possible for Akiko to take on that motherly role in his life. Later, he opens up to Maru and tells him that he and Saki are step-siblings. Maru quickly apologizes for assuming things about Saki and for teasing Yuta earlier. He admits he thought they were bumping uglies in secret, but now he sees that they're doing just fine as siblings. Meanwhile, at school, Maya and her group are hanging out when Shinjo brings up the idea of going bowling later this month. Seki says she's got to study, so Shinjo suggests doing a group study session instead. Maya jumps in, saying her house is always empty on weekends, so they should come over there. That afternoon, Yuta stops by his locker and sees Maya and her friends chatting with Saki. Watching her engage with others gives him a strongest sense of relief, almost like he's proud of her for opening up. Later at work, Shiori notices that he's quieter than usual. She comments on how he and Seki haven't been working the same shifts lately, and then jokingly asks if he's missing his not-girlfriend. Yuta brushes it off, saying he's just her brother and his mood has nothing to do with her. In her usual quirky way, Shiori tries to cheer him up by inviting him to her all-girl college open campus event, hoping he'd cheer up if he gets a shoddy riding his monster truck. Later, while on duty, Yuta helps a girl who seems vaguely familiar. She introduces herself as Kaho and reminds him they met at cram school. Yuta tells her he only goes there on weekends now, and she thanks him for the help before leaving, saying she doesn't want to get in the way. That night, Teishi happily slurps up the miso soup Seki made and says Yuta would probably love it too. Meanwhile, Saki, now freshly out of the shower, sits on her bed with her hair still damp, thinking about the day they spent at the pool. As the evening stretches on, Saki starts to grow anxious when Yuta doesn't come home. Still, she wraps up the dinner and leaves it out for him with a note before quietly heading to her room. She knows the smartest way to put distance between them would be to stop doing these little things like making him dinner. But to her, that feels like cutting him out of her life entirely. And she isn't ready for that. On the day of the parent-teacher meeting, the family gathers for breakfast, and Akiko takes one last look at her schedule to make sure everything lines up perfectly. Since both meetings are just 20 minutes apart, she knows it's going to be a hectic day with barely any rest, especially because she'll have to be up by 2 p.m. after a late shift at the bar. No one else is home around that time, so Teishi promises to call and wake her up. Later, as Yuta waits outside the library for his turn, Maya walks over and casually tells him that Seki went home for a bit. Apparently, she had forgotten something and decided to stop by the house, and while she was there, she figured she might as well wake up Akiko herself. While they wait, Maya suddenly asks Yuta if he secretly goons to Saki's feet pics. He quickly brushes it off, reminding her they're siblings. But Maya points out that just a few months ago, they were total strongers, so it wouldn't be that weird if he wanted to clap her. Still, Yuta stands by his words, insisting they're just family now. Maya laughs and asks if it's okay if she plays matchmaker and sets Saki up with someone else. She hints that someone already has a crush on her, and Yuta simply says she doesn't need to ask him for permission. Soon after, Akiko joins Yuta outside the classroom for his meeting. On the way in, she casually asks if Yuta ever met Saki before they became siblings, but he says he doesn't really remember. He shows her to the right room and encourages her to do her best. During the meeting, Yuta's teacher praises him for his academic efforts, saying he's on track to get into some of the best universities in Tokyo. The teacher compliments Akiko for raising such a responsible boy, and before she can correct the misunderstanding, Yuta speaks up and says he's genuinely thankful to Akiko for everything. That single sentence overwhelms her with emotion because it means Yuta has finally accepted her as a mother. When Saki walks in and sees Akiko crying and hugging Yuta, she instantly understands what must have happened. Afterward, it's Saki's turn, and her teacher admits she initially thought Saki was one of those girls trying too hard to stand out. But after getting to know her, she sees that Saki is just someone who enjoys looking cute and has a kind heart. When asked about her plans for college, Saki simply says she wants to choose a place that's affordable, but has a good future payoff. The teacher recommends Tsukinomiya Women's College, and even though it's high-end, she believes Saki can get in if she puts in the work. Though unsure of herself, Saki agrees to visit the open campus and give it a chance. On their way home, Akiko asks what she plans to do next, and Saki says she'll visit the college the following day. Akiko lights up with excitement as they walk together, looking forward to whatever comes next. The next day, Saki arrives at the college and runs into Shiori, who's thrilled to see her. Since the sample lecture isn't starting yet, Shiori suggests they wander around the campus. That's when Professor Kudo appears and Shiori reveals she's the one teaching today's class. Upon seeing Saki's nervous face, Kudo drags her to the office so she can ask why she has confusion written on her forehead. Inside, Kudo wastes no time getting serious. She tells Saki she already knows from Shiori that Seki might have feelings for Yuta, and in society's eyes, that's a big ethical no-no. She presses Saki to confess what she's really feeling, but Saki hesitates because she is unsure of her emotions. Meanwhile, at cram school, Yuta bumps into Kaho again and they walk together afterward. Since they're both hungry, they head to a convenience store to grab something to eat. Back in the office, Seki opens up about the last 3 months, but Kudo can't seem to wrap her head around the girl in front of her. She sees someone obsessed with appearances, yet aiming for a high-level college. Saki explains she's not academically inclined, but getting into a good college means a decent job, and a decent job means the freedom to live life her way. Kudo realizes Saki is constantly at war with herself, torn between how she wants to be seen and who she really is. She sees Saki as the kind of girl who gives more love than she receives, and that's exactly why she needs to be careful. At the same time, Kaho jokes that she initially thought Yuta was flirting with her and almost dumped him, but he turned out to be so boring, she would have more fun watching paint dry. She shares a bit about herself, saying she attends night school and likes hanging out at the arcade, which leads people to think she's a Twitch thought. But Yuta doesn't seem fazed, and she realizes he's the kind of guy who stays quiet until he knows someone well enough to speak. Back in Kudo's office, the professor gently tells Saki that it's easy to fall for the first person who sees through you, especially when you're rarely understood. She encourages Saki to meet more people and to expand her world a little, because if she still feels the same way about Yuta after that, then her feelings might actually be real. Either way, it's a journey worth taking. They leave the office together and attend the ethics lecture, and Kudo delivers it with her usual no-nonsense style. Later, Kaho asks Yuta if they can hang out again, and he tells her he'll be in the study room tomorrow. She suggests lunch, and Yuta agrees and hopes that she'll let him into her chamber of secrets. As they walk, he wonders why she didn't grab a rice ball earlier, and Kaho shrugs it off, saying she hates how the seaweed sticks to her teeth. That night, Saki tells Yuta about how she met Shiori and got into a weird conversation with a strict but insightful professor. Though the debate tired her out, she admits she kind of enjoyed it. When Yuta asks if she's going back tomorrow, she says she might, just to learn more about herself. Then she flips the question, and Yuta says he's having lunch with a girl from cram school. Instead of getting upset, Saki actually smiles, glad that he's finally getting a chick on his pickle Rick. They both quietly acknowledge that life is shifting, and even though they started as strong heirs who were confused by their feelings, they're slowly growing into something more grounded, siblings who actually care for each other. A few days later, Saki joins a group study session with her friends, and while they work through problems together, something clicks in her mind. She realizes that instead of memorizing the right answers, what really matters is learning how to figure them out. She starts to see that textbook questions don't actually make someone better at a subject unless they understand the logic behind them. And in those moments, it's okay to rely on others. It reminds her of something she picked up from Yuta, which is accepting your weaknesses, asking for help when you need it, and returning that kindness when you can. People can't read minds, she thinks, so if you don't speak up, you're just being unfair to everyone involved. Still, she's guilty of doing the exact same thing. There's something important she's keeping from someone who deserves to hear the truth. Later, she heads out with Shinjo to grab some snacks from a local store. On the way, they talk about his little sister, and their casual conversation brings out a soft side of him she hadn't seen before. Meanwhile, across the street, Yuta sits inside a restaurant with Kaho. He glances out the window, only to spot Saki and Shinjo walking together, and the surprise on his face is obvious. Kaho picks up on his reaction and tells him that he had that same exact look yesterday, like he was running away from something deep inside. She realizes Yuta didn't come to cram school to flirt or even to study, but to escape something much more personal. As they order dessert, she asks if what he's running from has anything to do with love. When Yuta opens up, he says he fell for someone he should have never had feelings for, and if he acted on it, it would just make things worse for everyone. Seeing how conflicted he is, Kaho gently suggests they hang out after cram school for a bit. Back near the store, Shinjo suddenly confesses to Saki, admitting that he likes her. Saki is taken aback but tries to handle it kindly. She gently tells him that she can't see him as anything more than a friend, which clearly breaks his heart. Still, Shinjo smiles through the disappointment and promises not to trouble her again. After he walks off, Saki stands alone, remembering Kudo's advice about connecting with more people to understand herself better. She quickly sends a text to Yuta to let him know she'll be home late tonight. Later that evening, Yuta finds himself standing beside Kaho, staring down at the city lights from a high-up viewpoint. Kaho looks at the streets below and comments that most people are just brainless monkeys, and for the longest time, she was one of them. She admits Yuta frustrates her because he's one of those people who appear calm and detached from everything. But beneath it, she sees clearly that Yuta didn't grow up with a woman he could lean on, so he trained himself to stay neutral, to look at everything from a distance. She believes it's a skill, but also a burden he was forced to carry. When he asks if she's gone through something similar, Kaho opens up about her past. She lost both her parents in a tragic accident during middle school, and because their families never approved of the marriage, people gossiped and mocked them even at the funeral. Instead of breaking down in grief, Kaho says she felt nothing but quiet resignation. Her aunt eventually took her in, unwilling to let her face the world completely alone. She told Kaho that she didn't need to pretend anymore, and that it was okay to admit she was angry and hurting. Her aunt's kindness slowly helped Kaho come to terms with her emotions. She now sees the same pain buried deep inside Yuta and urges him to face it before it eats away at him completely. Yuta doesn't say anything, but the words clearly hit close to home. The next morning, Yuta and Seki are having breakfast together when he casually mentions that he saw her walking with Shinjo the previous day. She's surprised but asks him why he got home so late. Assuming it was Shiori, she's caught off guard when Yuta says he was out with a new friend, someone who helped him understand his feelings better. And then, out of nowhere, he admits he has feelings for her. At first, Seki thinks he's messing around, but she quickly realizes she'd never do something such if it wasn't true. Trying to make sense of it, she suggests maybe it's just because he didn't grow up with girls and that it's natural to get emotionally attached to someone he sees every day. She tries brushing it off, saying maybe he just cares for her as a sister, but she's clearly overwhelmed and retreats to her room without saying much else. Yuta, unable to carry the weight of the confession alone, walks up to her door and knocks. After a pause, Saki opens the door and pulls him in. She hugs him tightly and tells him she's okay with what he said. She thanks him for being brave enough to say it out loud because she knows how hard it must have been to carry it all by himself, especially since she was going through the same thing. She admits that she's also confused about her feelings. Maybe he doesn't fully understand what he feels yet, or maybe he does, but whatever the truth is, she feels the same kind of emotional mess. If holding each other gives them comfort, then she wants to be there for him, just like she wants him to be there when she needs reassurance. They agree they can't let this affect their family. They both know their parents have built something fragile and good, and they don't want to bring chaos into it. So they decide to keep these feelings private and act like normal siblings in front of everyone else. They even admit that they get jealous when they see each other with other people, but Saki points out that kind of jealousy can happen between close siblings too. Saki eventually breaks down and starts crying, unable to hold the emotions back anymore. Yuta sits beside her, takes her hand, and tells her it's okay and it doesn't matter how messy it is right now because they're not alone. Sitting there quietly, hand in hand, one thing becomes clear to both of them. They might be confused, but they are still a family, and that's something worth protecting. That's it for this video. If you made it till the end, prove it by typing "Help me step bro, I'm stuck." Leave a like and comment which anime you want us to cover next. Thanks for watching.